So we hope you've watched already part 1 and 2 of our retreat series. And now we're at part 3.
Part 3, we're going to talk about how to advertise for a retreat, and then we're going to go on the retreat and see what's happening that weekend.
Come along. Okay, so we want to get everybody actually on this retreat that we're going to talk about. So to do that, you have to advertise in advance. And you want to advertise both to the youth themselves and to the parents. So utilize all your avenues of social media, emails, websites, everywhere you can put it out. And especially word of mouth, I think, is going to be your greatest tool in advertising. And I see that through our team, inviting friends. We really always encourage them to invite friends that maybe aren't even part of our youth group, to give them that really depth of their faith and experience in it that they haven't had yet. And then you have your contingency, right? The youth that have been on retreat from year after year after year in their high school years, and they just want to keep coming back. And just utilize all those avenues and get that information out early, because we know everybody's all last minute. So we want them to have that information. Again, one of the things I use on social media, and it's a great tool, is I take quotes from the previous year's retreat and I put them into little graphics, and here's what somebody said about last year's retreat, and I release them like every other day so that they're always going to see this in their news feed. I think those are really a great tool, because it's people's names that they can connect with and also know that, wow, they said this about the retreat, maybe I should actually think about coming. And really tell them how there's a deadline, there's a hard deadline, even though we've had people sign up the day of the retreat to come, and try to get all that done in advance so that you have your retreat count, you know who's coming, you're prepared for them. We talked about the overnight on part 2, and now we're actually leading up to getting on the retreat with all those youth that signed up for them.
So it's Friday afternoon, the retreat is starting, and the very first thing you want to do is, you as the adult leader and the team leaders want to get there a few hours in advance of the retreat.
Hours, not minutes. Hours.
So if the retreatants are showing up at 5 p.m., get there right after school. Some retreats, even if they come after school, the retreat team leaders will skip the day of school. They'll take off from school and they'll get there in the morning. It's up to you how that's going to work, what you think. But you need to get the retreat house decorated, name tags up, furniture arranged, get everything together, and then you're ready for the retreatants to arrive. And you want that to be a high energy, welcoming environment. Have the team leaders out and about, cheering people, welcoming people, have music blaring, have someone assigned to help show people to their rooms, maybe even carry their bags for them. Just make the retreatants and their parents feel as welcome as you can once everyone's arriving. Once everyone gets there, give them some time to get settled down, get to their rooms, unpack a little, but then you're going to want to gather pretty quickly after everyone gets there. And the very first thing you want to do is go over the rules. Your retreat house might have some rules you have to go over, and then you're going to have other rules for your retreat, where you can eat and drink, where you can play, if you can go outside, where you can go outside, when you might be allowed to go outside, what you're going to do with your cell phones. I know Kari usually respectfully asks people to put them away. On some retreats I've led, we've taken their cell phones from them. If you're going to do that, tell them beforehand, but
don't surprise them.
Don't surprise them.
They'll hate you for the rest of the retreat.
But what's most important is the very first thing, you have to get the rules out there. So everyone knows the atmosphere that they're going to be living in the next few days, that over these few days, we're living together as a community. We're here to build each other up. Yeah,
that's right. And we want to lay this groundwork right from the start. And so, again, not too much time in between on when they gather, settle into the rooms, and then off and running is the retreat with the rules. And the rules are really important. And we tend to allow our youth on the team to do most of them. And the more really serious rules are given by the leader, the adult leader, which in my case is myself, or in Father's case himself, or it will be you who's watching. And so those easier, lighter rules, like where you're allowed to eat, what you're allowed to bring up to your room, where the exits are, things like that, you can have your team present them. And we let the two team leaders, who are usually a male and a female, who have an outgoing, really funny, energetic personality, present them. And they always tend to put their own little personality into it. And it ends up to be like a fun, kind of lighthearted, but serious means business introduction to what we expect for the weekend and what is expected of each of the youth themselves. And the more serious rules that I do handle at the end, after those, bulk of the rules are done, that are a little more on the lighter end, are ones that really need to be honed in on, really need to be emphasized, and need the youth to be heard from an adult themselves. And there's one that is really serious that I think is worth mentioning. I'm not going to give you all the details of our rules. If you want, you can email me. I'll put in my email in the description. But in the sense that all the rules that are serious, the most important one is that you're obligated to report if anybody is talking about hurting themselves, hurting another, or someone is hurting them. And we do say that the majority of what youth talk about on our retreats and in small groups is kept confidential so that youth can open up. But again, if someone is hurting themselves, hurting another, or someone is hurting them, we will report that. We will talk to their parents and then report it to the necessary authorities that need to be addressed because we want to get that youth the help they need.
So something Kari does right from Friday afternoon until Friday evening is have confessions available. And we talked in part 2 about the importance of confession, having the team go to confession beforehand so they're in a state of grace if need be, and they can get the most out of the retreat. Kari's pastor, Father Maz, is great about making himself available on Friday night for confessions. Now, if you remember back to part 1, when we talked about the schedule, we talked about talking to your priest, find out when he's available to come, but kind of ask him, can you come towards the beginning? Maybe he can't, and so you'll have confession Saturday morning, Saturday night, whenever you can. But if he can come on Friday afternoon, that's really great, just to make the retreat start off, not just on a high energetic note, naturally, but a spiritually high and energetic note as well, having our sins forgiven and moving into the sacrament.
So it's the total ideal to have it on Friday night, confessions. And if you can't on Friday night, again, as far as said, at another time, as soon as possible. And we do a very intentional timing of our retreat. Now, while confessions might seem a little deep, it's more of the spiritual meaning and the grace that is needed to go through the retreat. But outside of that, with our icebreakers, with the different things that we do, we really build up the retreat in a way that starts off light and fun and then goes really to a more of a heavier time of the retreat where deeper things are talked about in the talks, and then also the experiences they have, the different activities that we do that are really based on spiritual depth and also depth of oneself and really understanding who they are and understanding who they are in God, which can bring out some emotions, can bring out some different feelings, can bring out needs to talk to an adult, maybe off to the side, or share something or some extra time of prayer. We really build the retreat that way. And so it starts off really light and fun, it kind of goes a little bit deeper throughout the weekend. One of the things that we do that is a little bit more in depth is love letters from home. And I wouldn't say it's the deepest part of the retreat, but it is one that's worth talking about. It does require you to send out information to parents in advance to let them know to send in love letters from not only just the parents, but all who know this youth, coaches, aunts, uncles, godparents, family friends, friends of their own high school age, to send in love letters in advance that they are given discreetly to you at the actual time of the retreat when they're dropped off, or they're sent in advance to you, and you have them all prepared to give to the youth. And when it's their first retreat, they really are surprised about these love letters. And even if it is their third or fourth retreat over their high school years, they do look forward to that time of reading their letters. And a lot of our youth have really enjoyed writing each other letters during that time. So it's a time to really allow those emotions to come out, and one feeling how loved they are to have received these letters from so many others that are not on actually a retreat with them.
Exactly, because as humans, we see God's love concretely in the love of our family and friends, and that's what these letters do. Now, another way that we see God's love on retreats, another big, deep moment, and really for many of our youth, they say this is their highest moment on the retreat, is Adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. That usually we do on Saturday night as the high kind of culminating point of the retreat. Now, of course, for this, you need a deacon or a priest, so ask your clergy to be there. But if you can do that, it's amazing, because retreats is really God's work, not our own work. And so by bringing the young people into the chapel before Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, he's able to work with them. A lot of times, what I know Kari does, what I like to do during the time of adoration, put a speaker in the background with some Christian music playing or reflective music playing. You can even tell the retreatants that they can be a little bit more comfortable. I like to tell them you can go anywhere in the chapel as long as you're respectful, sit on the floor, maybe set up a spot close to the Blessed Sacrament that they can go up close. And then if the priest is there and he's willing to say, having confessions again, for those who might not have been able to go on Friday night, maybe at this point they'll be a little bit more open to going. Now, some retreats do just 1 hour of adoration. Some do a half hour. That's what they think their kids can really go. But I'd encourage you, high school kids, go big. Because God is big and God wants us. And these young people are craving God. I know Kari a few years ago started all-night adoration where the Blessed Sacrament stays exposed all night long and people sign up for an hour-long slot throughout the night. It's really amazing, and they're already sleep deprived, so who cares if they're sleep deprived by spending an hour with each other or spending an hour with God? Always better to be sleep deprived spending an hour with God.
Yeah, and we make sure that we have an adult available on every hour so that there is always an adult chaperone in the chapel as well during those times, because that's really important. As much as we trust the young people, especially with the Lord present, we want to make sure that everything is taken care of properly.
Exactly. You never want to leave the Blessed Sacrament exposed alone. You always want to make sure you have at least 2 people present. That way, let's say the person coming downstairs next slept through their time. You can send one upstairs, go wake them up, and then someone can stay in the chapel with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament.
Yeah, and it's also crucial to have, if you can, multiple people on for each hour. And this way you can have the male-female component, because if it's a male that overslept the next hour or a female, you want to send that same sex, male or female, up to wake that next person up by knocking on their doors. We wouldn't want a young woman to knock on a young man's door. So we do make sure that, or sending the adult up again. We have done that, but again, it's tricky. You don't want to leave the Blessed Sacrament alone without an adult present. So again, if you have enough help to do all that and to have 2 adults present, even better.
But God definitely honors that time. So many of the young people who have gone on retreats with us come back and said that was their favorite moment.
The highlight.
And it's amazing. You might not think that, but it's true. They love it. It's definitely the highlight of the retreat.
All right, so we made it through all-night adoration now. We have made it to Sunday morning. We are heavily sleep deprived, but we are excited to see all that God has already done on this retreat and now what he's going to do for the rest of the retreat itself. Sunday is a part of kind of wrap-up time and also a time for really exploring on what is the next steps for these retreatants. And Father talked about at another episode about the retreat talk that is the sending forth talk, and that is a really important one. Have some of your best speakers on that, because that is the last talk that the youth are going to hear before they now enter back into the world that they have left to be on this retreat. And it's always a time of really them saying, I don't want to leave, I don't want it to end, but we all do know that even though we're on a spiritual high there, and hopefully it does continue, that all things do need to end, and we do need to go back out into the world and now live this out, live out what we heard already. So we give our youth a little cross usually at the end of each retreat to remind them of that experience. Some other things we also do at the end of the retreat is, because it's Sunday, we have Sunday Mass. That's important to fulfill that obligation. And then, again, just wrapping up a few things and kind of closing out the retreat, doing some final announcements on things coming up to kind of promote your next youth ministry events and keep that high going with them, keep them connected to your ministry, especially those that came on the retreat without knowing what your ministry was all about. Now they do, and they might reconnect in with you. And then we invite the parents back, right?
And the parents want to hear what happened over those last 3 days, but also the retreatants want to share with their parents. This kind of closing ceremony with the parents can take a number of forms, but a great way to always go is for you as the adult to thank the parents for lending you their kids for the last couple of days. You're telling them how excited you are to send them back, to have then maybe some of your team leaders share, but to let the retreatants speak. At this point, the retreat's really moved from the team leaders to the retreatants, bringing this experience. it's so good to let them share, to let them, it's another way for them to reflect back on their experience, but to get out everything that they're feeling inside. You're probably going to see plenty of tears at this as they're saying goodbye, as they're recounting some of the deeper moments. Probably a lot of good laughs too, a lot of inside jokes. So it's a confusing moment sometimes for the parents, a great moment for you and for the young people.
Yes, the bond.
And it really, then you're going to see as they're leaving, they're going to be already talking about the next time they're together. So for you as a youth minister, or as a youth ministry leader, you're going to want to capitalize on that and make sure that they're coming back together with you there, with the faith there, as part of your ministry going forward.
And share those moments with the parents and share about the future things to come so that the parents can kind of have it in their mind. Oh yeah, youth group meets on Sunday night next week. Let me make sure I get my child there. It seems like they had a good time on this retreat. I'm going to make a commitment to do that and to follow up with them to be able to be there. So I think that's so important to capitalize on the parents being there to hear all about what your ministry has to offer as well. And then it's time to go back to the retreat house and
clean up. Tell your team members that they are staying until you're done.
Yes.
Make sure they know that from the beginning. As much as you can with all the retreatants there, many hands make light work. Maybe that morning get a lot cleaned up, but definitely get your team members there to help clean up. Now, we want to share with you some of the hard lessons we've learned over the years. The first one is going to be about that cleanup, because on Friday afternoon, you're moving everything around. You're all going to want it back in the same spots. Get your phone, take pictures. Take pictures of what the retreat house looks like before, so you can make sure it goes back the same way after.
Okay, this chair was here, this statue was here. Okay, we're good to go.
Exactly.
Some other things that you need to remember to do is to clean up, throw out trash, make sure nobody leaves phone chargers inside of their rooms. I usually come out with a whole bunch of stuff that was left in rooms. I had my retreat 3 months ago, and I just went through a huge bag of clothes that was left behind and donated them because they were never cleaned.
Yep.
So those things do happen as well.
Some other kind of tips as we're going through, just things to think about, and this counts for the whole weekend. One, always remember you're the adult in this. So I know the first time that I led a retreat as the main adult, it was scary. You're not sure what's going to happen. You feel all of that responsibility now for 50 kids, not just your own children if you have children, but you can do it, right? Just be prepared beforehand. You're going to want to make sure you have emergency contact information for the parents. The permission forms are going to be in a set spot anyone can access all weekend. You're going to have emergencies that arise.
Yeah, we've had a few. We've had kids pass out, kids throw up, kids get sick and have to go home. Things happen at home and parents call you that they need to pick up their child early. Things just happen. And with that, just know you need to be adaptable, flexible, and just go with it, because there are things that are going to happen. And of course, you need to be medically ready. If you have a nurse that could be available to be on your retreat, great. If you have somebody that has a lot of knowledge with working with youth that maybe are sick or need medicine, different things, make sure you have that person there if you can, or just be a little bit savvy yourself with that. Like, just be knowledgeable on what you can do to help the youth, because things do happen, right? And you want to make sure that you can get them the correct medical attention or correct help that they need at that time. Kids have anxiety attacks, they have breakdowns, and you want to be able to, again, help the youth. They're the key component to the retreat, and their safety is number one.
Exactly. So all these things kind of in the background that they don't see, but you might not even want to do, but really by doing this is how you're best loving them and best caring for them during this time. And then overall, and remember what we said already, this is God's retreat. It's not your retreat. So as things go wrong, as things don't go the way you plan, don't
offer it up.
Offer it up. Take a breather. Don't let it stress you out. Don't let it ruin the retreat. But just know this is where God's going. And if he's messing it up a little bit, it's because he has better plans than everything you put into it, right? God's plans are always best for us.
Always. So we hope that you do great on your first retreat or 10th retreat or wherever you're at with taking maybe some of these little tips we gave you. If you have more advice for us, we'd love to hear it. Yeah. Please feel free to comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you can to our Talking Catholic channel. And remember, doing these retreats are a really deep way to touch the hearts, which in turn touch the souls of the youth. So thanks for watching.
Thanks.